how mindfulness can help you rewrite your karma.
Okay, let's be real for a second. Have you ever felt like life keeps throwing the same problems at you over and over? Maybe you keep ending up in toxic relationships, struggling with money, or just feeling like no matter what you do, things never really change. And at some point, haven't you wondered, is this just my fate? Am I doomed to keep reliving the same mess forever? Now, if you've had that thought, don't worry, you're not alone. And guess what? That's not how karma actually works. I know, whenever someone says karma, people immediately think, oh, you did something bad, bad things will happen to you. Or on the flip side, be a good person, and life will magically reward you. But here's the kicker. Karma isn't some cosmic punishment system. It's more like a cause and effect loop that most of us don't even realize we're stuck in. And the best part? You can actually break out of it. Yeah, I said it. You're not doomed to repeat the same mistakes. There's a way to shift your karma and finally stop attracting the same old struggles. And no, it's not about some mystical ritual or manifesting with crystals. No hate if you're into that. It's about mindfulness. Before you roll your eyes and think, great, another lecture about being present, hear me out. What if I told you that mindfulness isn't just about sitting in silence, meditating with your eyes closed? What if I told you it's the key to literally rewiring your life, to catching those subconscious patterns that keep you stuck and finally choosing a different path? And just to prove I'm not making this up, I've got some wild stories to share, real-life examples of how people have flipped their karma just by changing how they respond to life. So, tell me, do you ever feel like life is on repeat? Have you ever noticed a pattern in your struggles? Drop a comment below. I want to know if you've ever felt stuck in your own karma. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll see karma, and your ability to change it, in a whole new way. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. Karma is not destiny. Karma isn't some ancient cosmic hitman waiting to collect on your past mistakes. If it were, we'd all be doomed already. But let's be real. How many times have you thought, welp, this is just my bad karma coming back to bite me? Maybe your car broke down on the way to an important meeting. Or your ex is suddenly thriving while you're debating whether to eat instant noodles for the third night in a row. But here's the thing. Karma isn't fate. It's more like a series of cause and effect loops that most people don't even realize they're stuck in. Think of it like a video game. If you keep running into the same enemy at the same level, maybe it's not the game that's cursed. Maybe you just need to change your strategy. Let's take the story of Angulimala. This guy was the definition of bad karma waiting to happen. He wasn't just your everyday troublemaker. He was a full-blown serial killer, with a charming little hobby of collecting fingers like they were Pokemon cards. If karma worked the way most people think, this dude should have been reincarnated as a cockroach at best. But then he met the Buddha, and instead of getting smited on the spot, something incredible happened. He changed. He dropped his murderous ways, devoted himself to the Dharma, and spent the rest of his life doing good. Now, did his past just magically disappear? No, people still feared him, he still had consequences, but his future, that was entirely rewritten. And that's where the real magic of karma lies. It's not about punishment. It's about patterns. If you keep repeating the same mistakes, you're going to get the same results. But if you change your actions, even in small ways, the trajectory shifts. It's like switching lanes on a highway. One small turn and suddenly you're heading somewhere completely different. So the real question is, what patterns are you stuck in? Do you keep attracting the same toxic relationships? Do you always end up in the same financial mess? Do you find yourself reacting the same way to stress, anger, or disappointment? If the answer is yes, Congratulations, you're human. But the good news is, you're not stuck. You're just in a loop that you haven't noticed yet. And once you do, you can start making different choices. Karma isn't about suffering for your past. It's about taking responsibility for your future. So maybe today, instead of blaming karma, you start tweaking your responses. Choose to pause before reacting. Choose to break the cycle. Because if a guy who wore a necklace of human fingers can turn his life around, I promise, you can, too. So, what's the ultimate master key to this game of karma? Will you choose to break the cycle or stay stuck in the loop? Well, in the next part, I'm going to hand you a set of those master keys. Let's keep going. Chapter 2. Mindfulness, the key to changing karma. Karma is a cycle, and you can break it. Let's say you plant a bad seed. Maybe you were careless. Maybe you didn't know better. Or maybe you just thought, whatever. Let's see what happens. Now, that seed starts growing. And surprise, it's not turning into a lush, thriving tree. It's weak. It's struggling. Maybe even dying. Most people assume, well, I planted it wrong, so that's that. Guess I'll just accept whatever happens. But hold on, what if you don't just sit back and watch it fail? What if you start watering it, giving it the right nutrients, protecting it from harsh weather? Suddenly, that plant isn't doomed anymore. It starts growing stronger. It might not turn into the tallest tree in the forest overnight, but it can still flourish. This is how karma actually works. It's not about being punished for your past. It's about recognizing what you've set in motion and making adjustments. Every action, every choice, every new seed you plant has the potential to shift your future. The case of Angulimala, breaking the worst cycle possible. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, but what about people who've done really awful things? What about people whose pasts are way worse than just planting the wrong seed? Well, let me introduce you to Angulimala. This guy wasn't just someone who made a few bad choices. He was a full-blown serial killer. And not just any murderer. He had an actual ritual of collecting the fingers of his victims and wearing them as a necklace. Yeah. Let that visual sink in. By all accounts, if karma works the way most people think it does, he should have been doomed to a lifetime of suffering, followed by an afterlife of even more suffering. But then something happened. He met the Buddha, and in that moment, something inside him cracked wide open. He woke up to what he had done, to the weight of his actions, and he realized he couldn't keep going down that path. So he didn't. He gave up violence entirely, became a monk, and dedicated the rest of his life to making amends, not just by apologizing, but by actively changing his way of being in the world. Now, did karma magically erase his past? Of course not. People still feared him. He still suffered consequences. But here's what did change: his trajectory. Instead of creating more harm, he started planting better seeds. And that choice, the choice to shift his karma rather than be trapped by it, led him to enlightenment. So if he wasn't beyond redemption, what makes you think you are? How you unintentionally keep repeating your karma. Okay, so we've established that karma isn't about punishment, it's about patterns. But here's where things get tricky. Most people don't even realize they're reinforcing their own negative karma over and over again. Ever notice how some people seem to attract the same problems repeatedly? They date the same kind of toxic partners. They get into the same financial struggles. They keep making the same mistakes at work, in friendships, in life. At some point, you have to ask, is it just bad luck? Or is something deeper at play? This is where mindfulness comes in. See, most of us go through life on autopilot. We react instead of respond. We repeat behaviors without questioning them. We assume that this is just how things are, instead of stopping and asking, Wait a minute, why does this keep happening? If karma is a cycle, then mindfulness is the tool that helps you step outside of it. It allows you to pause, to notice, to recognize the moment before you repeat an old pattern and choose something different instead. How to break the cycle of karma in your own life. So how do you actually do this? How do you stop yourself from unintentionally replaying the same patterns over and over? Here are a few steps. 1. Start noticing the patterns. Take a step back and ask yourself, where in my life do I keep running into the same roadblocks? What situations feel frustratingly familiar? Awareness is the first step to change. 2. Pause before you react. The next time something triggers you, whether it's a frustrating person, an urge to act impulsively, or an old habit resurfacing, just stop for a second. Take a breath. Ask yourself, am I about to make the same choice I always make? What if I did something different? 3. Make small, conscious changes. Karma isn't rewritten overnight. But even the tiniest shift in behavior can start altering your trajectory. Maybe you speak up in a situation where you normally stay silent. Maybe you resist the urge to lash out when you feel attacked. Maybe you finally take that risk you've been avoiding. Every small change is a seed for a new future. 4. Surround yourself with the right influences. Let's be real. If you're constantly around people who reinforce the same old patterns, it's a lot harder to change. Find mentors, books, or even online communities that support the direction you want to go in. 5. Be patient with yourself. Breaking cycles takes time. You might slip up, you might fall into old patterns. That's okay. What matters is that you keep bringing yourself back to awareness and choosing differently again and again. You're not stuck, you're in control. The biggest lie we tell ourselves is that we're powerless, that we're just at the mercy of fate, doomed to relive the same struggles forever. But the truth, you always have a choice. Karma is not a sentence, it's a system. And once you understand how it works, you stop being a passive participant in your own life. You stop saying, "This is just how things are," and start asking, "How can I shift this?" So now, it's your turn. Where in your life do you notice recurring patterns? What's one small way you could respond differently next time? Drop a comment. I'd love to hear how this resonates with you. Because the moment you become aware of karma is the moment you can change it. Chapter 3. Applying mindfulness in daily life. Alright, so now that we know karma isn't some cosmic slap in the face, but rather a cycle we can actually influence, the next big question is, how do we do that? Well, my friend, the answer is mindfulness, and no, it's not just about sitting cross-legged and humming, while pretending your thoughts don't exist. It's about actually paying attention to what's happening as it happens, instead of running on autopilot like some glitchy NPC in the game of life. Let's be real, most of us react to things without thinking. Someone cuts us off in traffic, instant rage. A coworker takes credit for our work, cue dramatic mental revenge fantasies. Our bank account isn't looking too friendly. Time to spiral into existential dread. But here's the thing, when you react without awareness, you're basically just replaying the same old patterns, reinforcing the same old karma. It's like watching the same terrible sequel over and over and wondering why it still sucks. So how do we break that cycle? Simple, pause before you react. When you feel anger, sadness, or anxiety creeping in, don't just go with it like it's a fast food order. Take a breath, observe, ask yourself, what am I actually feeling? Is this reaction helpful? Am I about to make the same mistake for the 47th time? And speaking of mistakes, let's talk about our dear friend, the businessman who lost everything. This guy had it all, big investments, a flashy lifestyle, until, well, he didn't. One bad financial decision, and boom, downhill spiral. But instead of wallowing in despair, or blaming bad karma, he did something different. He started practicing mindfulness. He paid attention to his decisions. He noticed where he had ignored red flags, where his emotions had clouded his judgment. And guess what? By making small, conscious choices instead of reacting on impulse, he turned everything around. In just a few years, he went from broke to booming. The lesson here: mindfulness doesn't just help you feel zen, it literally changes the course of your life. When you're aware of your thoughts, actions, and reactions, you stop being a victim of your past choices and start creating a future you actually want. So, next time you catch yourself slipping into an old habit or reacting out of pure instinct, pause, take a breath, ask yourself if you really want to reinforce that same karma, or if it's time to rewrite the script. Conclusion: life is a series of choices. Which one will you make? So, here we are, after everything we've talked about: karma, mindfulness, breaking the cycle. You're left with a question that only you can answer. Are you going to keep living on autopilot, letting old habits and past karma dictate your future? Or are you going to take back control, become aware of your choices, and start planting better seeds for a better life? The truth is, your karma isn't written in stone. It's more like a script you've been acting out without realizing. The same reactions, the same emotions, the same struggles, over and over again. But now that you see the pattern, you have the power to rewrite the next chapter. And here's the thing: change doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to shave your head, move to the mountains, and meditate for 10 hours a day. Unless you want to, then hey, go for it. Even the smallest shifts, pausing before reacting, noticing your thoughts, making one different decision today, can completely change the trajectory of your life over time. So, tell me, where in your life have you noticed karma playing out? What's one pattern you're ready to break? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this resonated with you, make sure to subscribe for more insights on mindfulness, karma, and taking back control of your life, one conscious choice at a time.